When I first got started in detailing some of the highest paying, best paying jobs, and some of the jobs that were most annoying for customers were swirl mark removal jobs or paint correction, I guess would be the overarching term. And the reason why, and I can't believe that with all the advances in technology and tools and all that, that I still see cars that are just totally jacked up with swirl marks. Now, swirl marks are only caused by buffers, specifically rotary polishers. And spider webbing is caused by a whole slew of things, including even washing your car creates spider webbing. Spider webbing is more of a, something that happens kind of over time, maybe one incident, but it gets worse and worse over time. Whereas swirl marks are something that happen usually one time, right? And so that's why when I see people and brands recommending that beginners go with a rotary because it's easier, it boggles my mind. And I think they're really just setting people up for failure, especially with the advancements in tools and liquids and pads. There's really no reason in most cases for the DIYer or the general consumer to be picking up a rotary. In fact, with stuff like the Picture Perfect polish, you can get really good cut, really good finish with one liquid and one pad and a dual action machine. But anyway, in this episode or this video, what I want to talk about is how do you fix these things? So whether you are a DIYer at home that you want to fix it yourself, or you're a detailer maybe just starting out, maybe curious in paint correction, these swirl mark removal jobs are very satisfying and gratifying for you as the detailer and for the customer if you're going that route, or if you're the DIYer, you don't need to pay someone to do it. This is actually a relatively easy thing to fix. And so if you're one of those people that did use a rotary on your car and you are now seeing holograms, swirl marks, anything like that, this guide will guide you to remove those. If you've gotten bad information about using a rotary, especially to finish out the paint because you get more gloss or some ridiculous thing like that, this guide will show you how to now fix your mistake that other people have told you that is the right way to do. So I want to walk through the exact process to do paint correction safely, even if you're a total beginner. So again, paint correction, all these terms kind of get thrown around synonymously, but just know that the overarching kind of umbrella thing that we're talking about is paint correction. Now that could be paint enhancement, that could be swirl mark removal, that could be spider web removal, that could be scratch removal, that could be paint enhancement, but it all is under the umbrella of paint correction, which is at its core just removing defects. That's it in the paint. So it could be scratches, again, water spots, swirl marks, oxidation sometimes. And in this process of correcting the paint or enhancing the paint, you are adding shine. So you're by nature of removing the defects, you are adding shine because all those defects kind of dole out the finish. So when I talked about, spider webbing happening over time, it's like if you take your car to the local car wash and you have the monthly membership, because of the chemicals, the brushes, and a whole host of other things, they are more than likely inducing defects in the paint that dull the finish. So if you want clarity and more shine, that is when you step into the paint correction side of things. So obviously then you're going to want to protect that once you do all that work with either a ceramic coating or a wax or a spray sealant or something along those lines, which we will get into, and I'll kind of give my recommendations for that. So but honestly, my goal is to simplify this. And I remember when I first started out and there was, I honestly, probably within the first couple months of me having my business, there was a black Mercedes S550 and the customer or new customer to me had got it detailed and they put a bunch of swirlies in the car. That's why I used to start calling them swirlies, because that's how all my customers referred to them, as swirlies. So, and he wanted to know, could I take those out? I had no idea. So what did I do? I went to YouTube and I searched it and I figured it out. And I bought some swirl mark remover liquid, right? And what I carried in my van was like a heavy cut compound, a medium cut compound, a light polish, and then a swirl mark remover, right? And a dual action polisher, because this is hands down the safest way to go for beginners. So the safest way is a dual action machine. There's just no reason to go to a rotary, especially for a beginner. Okay. So here's exactly what let's start with exactly what you need to get started. A dual action machine. I'll try to link one below. It doesn't have to be expensive. If you're just doing your own car, maybe once or twice a year, go running down to Harbor Freight and getting their DA is going to be totally fine. It's going to be totally fine. If you're bougie and you want the best of the best, obviously you could go Flex, Rupes. There's a whole host of other dual action machines that work really good. You're going to need some pads, probably one cutting and one polishing. Again, I'm trying to break this down as simple as possible. 2 pads, that's it. You're going to be able to get everything you need done with 2 pads. And then you're going to need your product. Remember how I said back in the day I had like a heavy cut compound, a medium cut, a light polish, and then a whole separate product that was like a swirl mark remover? A lot of brands still have multi-step, multi-product, multi-liquid systems. I have decided to develop a product that actually eliminates all those, and you just need one. It's called the Picture Perfect Polish. You'll also need a clay bar or a clay mitt. You definitely want to decontaminate the paint, get any roughness out of the paint. I'll talk about why that's important later. That could be a big misstep that people don't take the time to do, and it can really interfere with the results that you're getting. I've tested it, and I'll kind of talk about that here in a little bit. Obviously, some clean, fresh microfiber towels, good lighting, whether that's a swirl finder, a good shop light, unless you want to be running in and out of the sun, and you could do that too. And then optional is some tape if you want to protect trim. With the Picture Perfect Polish, you don't need to tape off for the trim. I don't necessarily recommend this new phenomenon that's a little weird to me of polishing trim. I don't really recommend that. I don't recommend that because I don't have a lot of experience with it, and I've seen a lot of horror stories. So I don't do it. I don't really recommend it, but I don't recommend it because I don't have a lot of experience with it, because it's kind of a new phenomenon that seems a little silly to me. Like, why would we do that, right? So again, for the polish, I use the Picture Perfect Polish. I have a couple pads on my website. I have everything you need if you're trying to accomplish this over on jimbosdetailing.com, and I will obviously link it below. Everything's also on Amazon as well. So as we get into it, the step-by-step correction process is this. This is the exact method I have refined over the years, and the exact method I recommend for both beginners and pros, okay? So I wash the car. You got to start there, right? So you can foam the car. I prefer a foam cannon, and this is why I love the dry foam, rinse, refoam, because you can actually, on the second foam, if you're using a soap like the Super Soaper, on that second foam, the car is incredibly clean. So you can go straight to clay bar, whether it's a clay bar, clay mitt, clay towel, whatever. Doesn't really matter. The medium that you're using, whichever one you prefer. On that second foam, you can actually clay bar the car with the foam on the car. So you're simplifying the process, speeding up the process. I don't know about you, but I'm not one of those people that want to spend 20 hours doing paint correction on the car. I want to get it in, out, and done and move on with my life. I don't love it. And so I like to prep the car as best as possible. Then I will, if there's any like super sensitive areas, I don't do this if it's a newer car usually, but if it's an older car that I'm working on and there are like just any super sensitive areas, sometimes on old cars, like the emblems on the side are just a little loose and I don't want to worry about running into those and potentially breaking those. So on newer cars, I don't really worry about the emblems, but on older cars, I've noticed that like some trim pieces are loose sometimes, and sometimes cars are quite honestly, duct tape together. So if there's any sensitive areas that you're worried about, way better to tape it off and not have to worry about it as much. So you could definitely do that. One of the most important things that you want to do that'll just save you a ton of time is to do a test spot on the car. Every car is different. Every clear coat is different. Sometimes even parts of the car are different. The red Porsche in my car, the back half is single stage paint. The front half is base coat, clear coat, 2-stage, right? So on single stage, the color comes off on your pad. On clear coat, it doesn't, right? That's an easy way to tell. So, but regardless, I will always do a test spot. Most people recommend doing a single test spot. Sometimes I'll actually do 2 different test spots just to make sure that I got my process dialed in. And this is where a lot of frustration comes in because car paints are finicky traditionally, right? And so when I was developing the picture perfect polish, this is one of the hurdles that I had to overcome, is that different car paints are so finicky. How do I make something that works for the vast majority of paints? Right? And I think we were able to accomplish that. But regardless of what product you're choosing, do a test spot to nail down your method of what you're going to do for the whole entire car. So just polish like a 2-foot by 2-foot section on the hood, the fender, the door, somewhere that's relatively easy and not like back breaking is usually what I do. So I'll usually do like the front of the hood. And I'll just make sure that my pad, liquid, my speed on my machine, the machine itself, everything is kind of dialed in. If it works, great, I'll just keep going, right? If it doesn't, that's when you adjust. But it's better to learn to adjust when you're doing your test spot than when you got half the car done, right? So once you have your test spot, you're probably going to pick the picture perfect polish with the cut and finish burgundy pad. That is going to get you, 80 to 90% of the use cases are just done with that. But I do have a black finishing pad if you like that too. So using slower arm speed and overlapping passes, maybe 4 to 5 passes per section. I usually just go in a horizontal fashion, overlapping, 50% each time. Think of it as mowing a lawn, right? And so when you're mowing a lawn, though you may not, if you're doing stripes, you probably won't overlay 50-50, but maybe painting a wall might be a better example, right? You want to overlay where you just went to make sure you have even coverage. And the same is true with paint correction. You want to go over a little bit so that you make sure that you have you're covering the panel evenly, right? So I usually use a medium pressure. I know there's a lot of people that have, say don't use any pressure, use heavy pressure, use 15 pounds of pressure. And actually have a video that I did with Jim Thomas, which explains pressure weight, which I think is very, very helpful, and some tips. I'll link that below as well. Doing some, because chances are you're going to need to use some pressure to get out the defects that you're talking about, unless you're doing a really light polish. And then in that sense, you really don't need any pressure. The reason why a lot of people say don't use pressure is because their liquids and their compounds are too aggressive. And so if you add more pressure, you're going to mar the paint, or you're going to increase your chances of leaving a haze in the paint. So you may remove the scratch, but leave a haze. That's super, super common with a lot of the products out there on the market. And so for that reason, the product brands know this. And so they will tell you to not use pressure so that you don't mar the paint, or you don't have a additional haze in the paint. That would make their product look bad. So they mitigate this by saying light pressure, right? So after you do, your test spot, you can use one of your clean microfiber towels, check the lighting, pull it outside if you need to, and then check your test spot. If you're good and you're at where you want it to be, fantastic, right? If not, well, start switching stuff up. Add a little bit more product, less product, increase the speed, decrease the speed, increase the pressure, maybe decrease the pressure, depending upon the results that you're getting. If you're getting a slight haze, maybe pull back on the speed and pressure. If you're not getting the defect removal, you may need to up the speed or up the pressure, or change the liquid and pad altogether, which is very, very common as well. There are some mistakes when you're just getting started that can kind of either just waste time or can be really detrimental to the paint. And one of those I mentioned earlier is skipping the clay. So if you don't clay bar your car, those are contaminants in the paint. And so what happens is those contaminants will interfere with the liquid in the pad and the machine, and you won't be able to get the proper correction that you need in the time that you need to do it. And because as you're picking out that contamination with your now compound and pad combo, it's then bogging up the pad and going into the pad, and then the pad is not able to do what it's doing because it's got to dig out this contaminant first. So definitely, even if you don't think the car needs it, you will waste so much more time by not cleaning the car first, getting rid of those contaminants, and starting with a clean, very clean surface. So definitely clean. Using the wrong pad for the job is another one. Again, there's tons of pad confusions, and I'm actually planning a podcast with Matt Gibb, who was one of the original guest on my podcast over 10 years ago. And we're going to do a deep dive on pads, but it's very confusing. Pads, there's no centralized color. There's no centralized really anything in the pad space. And so that's why I did a deep dive on pads. I have tons of videos on my YouTube channel about trying different pads, microfiber pads, foam pads, different densities of foam pads, different brands of foam pads. And I was able to settle on 2 that worked really, really well. And I obviously have those up on my website. Not cleaning your pad as you work is probably the number one mistake. So this could be done in a variety of ways. You could do a pad washer. You could use compressed air to blow it out. You can use just like a trim tool to clean the pad. You can use your finger over, or microfiber towel over your finger, your microfiber towel over a trim removal tool. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. There's not one way that is like the most optimum. The most optimum way to do it is to have multiple pads for the job. This is how I personally like to do it. You have maybe 3 to 4 or 5 pads to go around the whole car. And then when you're done with that pad, when you've worked a couple panels with that pad, you could take it off the machine, set it aside to clean it later, right, after you're done with the car, and then you could put a fresh pad on to continue your work. This saves a ton of time. Whether you have a pressure washer or a compressed air or however you're cleaning it, it's not faster than just switching out to a new pad, right? And if you do use a pad washer, a lot of products are not compatible when the pad is damp. In fact, that could really throw off your results too if you have a damp pad. Now, the Picture Perfect polish being water-based and having waterborne technology, it actually doesn't react weird when your pad is a little damp, but a lot of polishes and compounds do act weird, right? So just if you're getting a weird result, just know, hey, if you're using a pad washer, your pad is a little damp, you may not be getting the true result that you're looking for because of that. So, and again, don't skip the test spot. It just saves you so much time. I know it seems like, you're wasting time by doing the test spot, but you gotta paint correct that area anyway. So just make sure you don't skip that test spot. And honestly, don't worry too much about absolute perfection based on what car you're doing. Now, if you're doing a concourse level car and you're spending 40 hours on it, yes, of course, chase perfection. However, if you are, doing a minivan, you're doing a daily driver, ask your customer the questions, ask yourself the questions of how am I going to maintain this car? And then let that dictate how much paint correction you're actually going to do. So if you're going to be doing, if you're going to be, say your client's going to have a monthly membership at the local car wash, doing a full paint correction and spending 20 hours on this car to get a full paint correction when they're going to run it through the car wash next week does you a disservice. Your customer's going to feel ripped off. Really have a conversation with your customer, or if you are the customer yourself, have that conversation with yourself of like, how am I going to maintain this? And speaking of maintaining it, after you're polishing, the next step is to protect that finish. You just did all this hard work polishing. Now you want to protect it, lock it in. You have a couple different options here, right? You could use a wipe-on ceramic coating, something like the Gloss Boss. You could use a spray-on ceramic coating like Tough as Shell. You could use a spray wax. You could use a paste wax. You could use a sealant. And it really doesn't matter. It's just how much time do you want to put into protecting the paint? And then beyond that, how are you going to protect the paint? So the two options that I think are the best are to use a wipe-on coating like the Gloss Boss. And something that's really cool is you can, but you don't have to, use an alcohol wipe or a panel prep after you polish before you add protection. Again, we specifically designed the Picture Perfect polish to not need that. It's a very complicated explanation of how we were able to achieve that, and really it goes into trade secrets because no one else has really been able to do that. No other brand has been able to have a liquid that can cut like a compound, finish like a polish, and then also act as a prep for something like a wipe-on ceramic coating. My pick, other than the Gloss Boss, would be Toughest Shell. It's going to give you more durability than, say, like a spray wax or a paste wax, even a sealant. And it's super, super easy to apply. It's simply just spray and wipe. And this will make maintenance a breeze, okay? So recap, if we're just starting out, paint correction, wash and clay, do your test spot. The test spot will help you get your right pad and polish combo. Polish with control. Don't go after it. Like, if you're just a DIYer at home, it's okay to do a couple panels at a time and come back to it later. Like, you don't always have to complete the whole entire car at once. And trust me, I do this all the time. I'll do just the hood and the front two fenders if it's bugging me. And then maybe next week I do the rest of the side. And I kind of break it up because it's fine for me. Like, you know, I like my car to be polished and perfect most of the time, even my daily driver. And so I polish my car kind of a lot, right? But once you have the test spot, everything down, it's very, very simple to just jump back in and do it, especially if you have more pads, right? So I will make sure to link everything below, all the perfect paint bundle that I have on my site, Toughest Shell, Gloss Boss, Super Soaper, everything I talked about in this episode, I will have linked below. In addition to those couple videos that I talked about with Jim, where we talk about polishing pressure, I feel like that's so important, and there were so many good nuggets in there. So hope you guys enjoyed that one. Hopefully it took away some of the mystique around paint polishing, especially for beginners. And so hopefully you guys got some value out of that. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.